Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
Yes, sir, Bob. Greetings to you, music lovers, thrill seekers, conversationalists all across. Hang on just a second. Mix-minded. Bring up the audio. Good. Okay, again. 3, 2, 1. Greetings to you, music lovers, thrill seekers, Take it down just a little bit. What the hell? Go ahead and just hit the jingle. Let's just get started.
Live from the left coast at our satellite studios in Los Angeles, it's Open Line Friday.
Yes, sir, Bob. Here we go, folks. All ready to have more fun than a human being should be allowed to have. Your host, your beloved host, being impugned, lied about, unfairly criticized all over the drive-by media. It's typical, and I can't wait to play for you the examples. It's great to have you here. Open Line Friday, whatever you want to talk about. Fair game, fine and dandy. Can be anything at all. 800-282-2882. If you want to be on the program, the email address, lrushmo@eibnet.us. Have you ever noticed, ladies and gentlemen, how the, I call them the left, the liberals, the Democrat, whatever. Have you ever noticed how they claim they love Mother Nature? They just love it. They don't like humanity much because humanity destroys Mother Nature, but they love Mother Nature. But then, when Mother Nature does something nasty, like give us a drought or give us a hurricane, it's not Mother Nature's fault. No, it's our fault. It's mankind's fault because man has brought about climate change. And Mother Nature is merely another poor victim of capitalism and uncaring, unfeeling, mean-spirited, extremist human beings. I look at what has been reported about this hurricane, what was reported before it hit. By the way, for those of you wondering, we dodged the bullet as I knew. Well, I didn't know anything. I was looking at the models yesterday and the forecast, and I was telling everybody that was asking me, look, it's going to go enough away from us that we're not going to get the brunt of this. And it did. We had some damage where I live. No damage. There was one down tree. This is another thing. I got an email. There's a tree down on your property. I said, oh, no, really? A tree down? Should I go home? So somebody sent me a picture. It was the neighbor's tree, and about 2 feet of it was in the street. So everything is fine. I'm not able to get back home yet for a couple of reasons. But we should be back to normal on Monday, up and running. If not, doesn't matter, folks. We'll be here wherever we are. Doesn't matter. We're here as long as I'm here, and I will be here. But as of yesterday's program, we spent a lot of time talking about how there was a lot of variances in what we were being told were the high winds, various places like Nassau and Haiti. And then we had on-the-ground reports from those places that were not at all consistent with what we were being told the high and the wind, the gusts and the sustained winds were. So I mentioned this. And at the Huffing and Puffington Post, folks, you heard me on this program yesterday. You have to be a special kind of stupid to write. What is that? Is somebody fart? What is that? It sounds like somebody farting, putting makeup on. It sounds like whatever. You're not hearing it? There it is again. You didn't hear that. All right. Well, I will try not to be distracted by it. I mean, it's not overwhelmingly loud, but it sounds like, I'm telling you what it sounds like. Sounds like William Shatner's in here, okay? Well, he's known for that on purpose. It's part of his act. Well, you have to be a special kind of stupid to do what, and actually you can't blame, there it was again. You can't blame the Huffing and Puffington Post because their source here is Media Matters, which has defined a special kind of stupid. Here's how the Huffing and Puffington Post story begins. Conservative talk show host Rush Limbaugh suggested this week that the National Hurricane Center was playing games with its forecast to cause false alarms and scare people into believing in climate change. It's in the interests of the left to have destructive hurricanes because they can blame it on climate change, which they can desperately continue to try to sell, they quote me as saying. While Limbaugh admitted that Hurricane Matthew was a serious storm, well, of course, that doesn't matter. I admit that it's a serious storm. Limbaugh also claimed that it was the first of its kind in more than a decade. It is. It is. It's the first major hurricane, and it hasn't struck land yet, by the way, which is not good because it's not weakening that way. It's just traveling up the east coast of Florida. While he was correct that no storms in that time period were major, the so-called hurricane drought was misleading, according to Weather Channel senior meteorologist Jonathan Erdman. There is anybody honestly assessing this? Who uses the term hurricane drought anyway? We just haven't been hit by any major storms. It is inarguable. Are you hearing that? Okay, somebody just started playing music. Literally, it's as loud as my voice. I don't know if they can hear this on the broadcast. It's not going out on the air. Okay. Oh, now it's gone. It was a guitar riff, like somebody playing some soft, cool jazz tune. There it is again. Now it's a country tune that's playing. Do what? I'm sorry, folks. I don't know if we're being sabotaged here or not, but the engineers cannot hear what I'm hearing in my feed.
My Mac was up.
That's what. Okay. It was not sabotage. And I didn't think it was sabotage. I just threw it out as a possibility. But somebody had a potentiometer here turned up that should not have been turned up. Volume control for those of you in Rio Linda. So anyway, who talks in terms of hurricane droughts anyway? There just haven't been any. And I don't think that it is disputable that the left is using hurricanes. Do you realize there's not going to ever be another normal weather event ever again? A thunderstorm, a tornado, they're going to attach. They already do. They attach every standard operating meteorological event as something special now, as something unexpected, as something unprecedented. And it's exactly because they have a political agenda attached to this. You know what's really scary? I think, we sit here, we talk about media bias and how the media is thrown in with the Democrat Party. I think it's worse than that. I was thinking about this last night. I was looking at all this coverage, the hurricane, and how people reacted to what I said yesterday. And I don't think it's bias. I think it is bias, but it's gone beyond that. I think now that the media exists to defend the state. The media exists to defend the regime. The media considers itself to be part of the state, the government, whatever term you want. But state has a special connotation to it in this lingo, the way I'm using it. It used to be that the media was suspicious and doubtful. You remember the old phrase, holding truth to power. What that meant was that people who were more powerful than the rest of us were going to get special attention and special accountability because they had so much power, because we had elected them, and they have that much power. So they were going to be watched and they were going to be analyzed. It stopped happening. There is no watching. There is no analysis. There is nothing but pure defense of the state. That's what the media has become. And so here I am. The state, in this case, is the Commerce Department, which is the National Weather Service, which is the National Hurricane Center, which is the National Oceanographic and Aeronautical Association, whatever it is, NOAA. And they're out there all saying the same things. And Al Gore has made a point of pointing out global warming is responsible for stronger hurricanes. And after he said that, we didn't have any for 11 years. But you can't escape it. You can't. Anytime this hurricane was talked about, when they go and talk to a guest, some special meteorologist expert or hurricane specialist, there was always a link to climate change. And then we'd have this Ron, what's his name, from NBC, who actually said that the United Nations panel on climate change, once they get the document signed, it's designed to stop these kind of hurricanes. And the media doesn't question it. The media doesn't oppose it. They don't question it. They never even doubt it. They just report it. And when anybody comes along and does the job the media used to do, which is doubt and suspect what people in power tell us, we get attacked. Because we are then portrayed as enemies of the state. I think that's really what's going on with the media these days, in addition to whatever left-wing bias. But they have now grown to become one with government, one with the idea of big government. They consider themselves to be part of it. The fact that they're all Democrats is icing on the cake. But it's the power that goes along with being part of the state. It's the connections. It's everything. And anybody that comes along with an opposing view, anybody that does not accept whatever the government says about anything, is immediately targeted, held up for ridicule. This is what the media themselves used to do. Now, you know as well as I do that whatever we're talking about in terms of a hurricane or a major thunderstorm or high winds, nothing is normal anymore. Let me ask you this. Gauging how successful they've been, this hurricane, did you need anybody to make you think about global warming when you first heard about it? Or did you automatically, you know what, global warming? Why did you think it? Because they've put it in your mind. They've put it in your head. They talk about it so often. Major weather disasters, which used to be normal and constantly occurring, are now portrayed as dramatic, drastic, special, one of a kind. Every damn one of them is one of a kind. And there's always a reason. Humanity is causing it, not Mother Nature. Mother Nature has become a victim of humanity. It's absurd. The whole thing's 180 degrees out of phase. And I just think it requires a special kind of stupid to be this compliant. It doesn't take any courage. It doesn't take any guts. Can you imagine the media being compliant with Richard Nixon or Ronald Reagan? Can you imagine them not doubting a thing? Can you imagine them thinking they are in the same government with Reagan or Nixon or George W. Bush? Take your pick. If you agreed with George W. Bush, you were the problem. You were a suspect. You were an enemy of the state. So the state is liberalism, whether it's in power or not. And anybody that takes an opposite point of view or questions it becomes an enemy of the state. And it's on that basis that you are reported on. It's on that basis they tell jokes about you. And it's all done to discredit the critics because the state must never be wrong. The state must be infallible. And therefore, the journalists reporting for the state, not on the state, not about the state, but reporting for the state must also be infallible. And anybody, this is no different than questioning the Pope. You can't do it. Except they can. The left can because the Pope doesn't conform with the state, particularly when it comes to abortion. So the Pope is also an enemy of the Catholic Church because it doesn't conform with the state. I'm an enemy of the state. Because I have not bought hook, line, and sinker that every drop of rain that falls, every gust of wind over 30 miles an hour is because of climate change, and therefore my fault and your fault. Because that's flat out BS. And it takes a special kind of stupid to acquiesce, to go along, to not think in a challenging way, to not be suspicious, to not even question it. And that's how you get to a point where an NBC reporter can actually tell people that after a piece of paper is signed at the United Nations, hurricanes will be stopped. Why wait for that? If we have the ability to stop hurricanes by signing a piece of paper, why haven't we signed a piece of paper? Why didn't we do it 2 weeks ago so this wouldn't have happened? And when it does happen, the hurricane, why don't we sign the piece of paper to make it stop then? Why don't we tell that hurricane, stop, dud, you have just been signed. We are relegating you to irrelevancy. We just signed a piece of paper to the United Nations and you don't exist and the hurricane goes away. It doesn't happen, does it? Why don't we steer it away from people? Why don't we steer it away? Why don't we go out there and make it less strong? Because we can't. And yet they have made people think that we're going to be able to do this. And people are falling for it. Average, ordinary Americans are falling for it because it's reported each and every day. There's no questioning of it. And the blind obedience to the state is the greatest threat this country has. Because you have the wrong people in leadership in the state, you can say goodbye to the United States as founded. That is why the Founding Fathers granted the press constitutional responsibilities. The press is the only business in the country that has constitutional freedoms specifically spelled out. For the Founding Fathers hated it. They were criticized and ridiculed left and right, but they knew that was how. That was the check on the collection of and the having a mental block on the word, the concentration of power. By always doubting it, by showing it to be wrong when it was wrong, by causing people not to be blindly obedient. But yet that's where we are. So only an idiot would assume that my statement yesterday on the hurricane, anything I said about it yesterday, only an idiot would assume that I meant, that I thought left-wingers were causing damaging hurricanes. But that's what's being... They are taking what I said and rewording it, claiming that I'm telling you that left-wingers are trying to make hurricanes worse so that they can sell global warming to you. That requires a special kind of stupid. Instead of cynically taking ideological and propagandistic advantage of them when they occur, it takes a special kind of stupid to make that leap, which is why it was made by a leftist. The headline of this huffing and puffing Post story, Rush Limbaugh thinks hurricanes are part of a left-wing conspiracy. No, I don't, because we don't control them. It's the way they're reported. It's the way they are forecast. It is the way they are used. Hurricanes have been around for the millennia. For those of you in real in, it's thousands of years. They've been bad, they've been inconsequential, they've been catastrophic, they've been everywhere on the Saffir-Simpson scale. They've been everywhere on any scale you want to. Before we even conceived of this flawed premise of man-made global warming, hurricanes and everything else in weather has been, including ice ages, when where we live now used to be buried under 10 feet of ice. It's all, I know, I have to take a break. I got to be back here in a second. Look, I've got some audio sound bites. They're going to illustrate all this when we get back for the next break. But I just have to tell you folks something. In the 1950s, the state, the media, and the left blamed extreme weather on nuclear bomb testing, which they opposed, obviously. In the 1960s, the media and left blamed extreme weather on space exploration. Remember those rocket launches were doing horrible things to the atmosphere? Then we got a serious thunderstorm and blamed it on the rocket launches. If you don't, you're not old enough. Trust me, I do. And the media opposed rocket launches because they thought it was going to lead to warfare. In the 1970s and 1980s, the media left blamed, quote, extreme weather on air pollution due to industry. Remember acid rain and all the cities that were going to be destroyed by acid rain? The media left opposes industrialized states and businesses. And so their enemies list is going to get blamed for whatever they can most easily sell. If they want you to hate big business, then blame the weather that affects you every day and tell you that it wouldn't be this bad if it weren't for what big business is doing, or if we weren't testing nukes, or if we weren't launching rockets. And hang in, be right back again. Okay, for a little inside baseball, for those of you still curious, the audio that I was hearing that you weren't, somehow it was coming. I've got a potentiometer here that I can control the output of my iMac, which on previous occasions I've used to listen to music during commercial breaks, and I don't have time to do that anymore, but that volume control was still up, and there was some kind of audio being output by the iMac which I still can't figure out, but we turned that down and it was gone. So there was no sabotage. I don't want anybody out there saying that the program was sabotaged by global warming extremists or any of that. It was just a technical thing here. Now, welcome back, folks. Open Line Friday. We're here in Los Angeles. Hope to be back to the EIB Southern Command on Monday. But I want to expand on this a little bit and add some audio sound bites to illustrate what I am talking about. Here we have, by the way, in addition to all these things that the media and left blamed extreme weather on, nukes, nuke testing, rocket launches, extreme weather being blamed on air pollution, acid rain, they now blame extreme weather on climate change, global warming. Now, what is that caused by? What's causing climate change? Well, if you listen to them, capitalism is. Our progressive, advancing lifestyle, our SUVs, our air conditioning is causing climate change. Our output of CO2, which is a direct result of our civilization and standard of living improving. And they blame that because they don't like capitalism. It's a threat to socialism. Socialism is where they are fully empowered. Capitalism, they're not. They resent it. What has always stunned me, not just about weather and climate change, and how it's dramatically different today. You can read, like Drudge is getting a lot of grief today from in places like Popular Science, where you would expect Popular Science. You would expect it to be about science. It's not. It's about politics. So Drudge advances on his website, same theory I'm advancing, that there might have been a little bit of global warming hype in the warnings and the forecasting of the hurricane, and they think it's the most outrageous thing in the world. You have to be a Looney Tune to think that. Now, why do they think? They're not even suspicious, and it's because they have totally bought into it. They have become totally, obligatorily acquiescent to the state. Journalists are supposed to be curious and doubtful and distrustful. But they have been overtaken by what I call a special kind of stupid, defending the state on every single premise and dismissing any criticism as illegitimate. There isn't a one of them that hasn't bought into mankind is destroying the planet. And I remember when practically all journalists doubted and were suspicious of government and investigated and looked into some of these claims that government would make. And in some cases, it irritated us because there were honest people they were trying to destroy. But the difference is now that the media acts as though it is a branch of government charged with defending and protecting the state. And that is exactly what's going on. And that is at the root, I maintain, of everything bothering us. We call it media bias. We call it unfairness. We call it a rigged game, whatever. What it actually is that the media is the state, and they have taken on as their job, as their responsibility to defend and protect the state and destroy anybody who criticizes the state. Now, you mark my words, it's already true now. There will never be another normal weather event ever. And there's obviously a total absence of any critical thinking in our country. There's just total buy-in, acquiescence to the state. You know, I watched last night. I was up late because I was trying to find as much information as I could about this thing as it was passing the closest to where I live that it was going. So I found some live TV broadcasts of local TV stations in Florida. And as I'm watching this, I was especially sensitive to how it was making me feel. And I tried to get objective. I tried to watch it as people who were there, who were residents watching it, if they had power. And I'm telling you, this coverage made me want to run, made me want to cover, made me want to cower, made me want to flee. And then they showed us pictures of downed tree limbs in the street, not trees. They even had a reporter standing over a downed stop sign pole. as though something had died, as an indication of how dangerous. A down stop sign pole. And it was almost like a memorial service was being done for it. I'm watching this, and I'm in a stunned set of disbelief. And then, sometime later on CNN, here comes little Brian Stelter, their media analyst, with a tribute, a shout out to the bravery of these journalists out there, risking their lives to bring the story of this destructive hurricane brought to us by global warming. We said, yep, that's bravery. These guys may be no different than the Rangers that climbed a hill at Pointe du Hoc at Omaha Beach. What bravery, what courage to stand out there and possibly get blown away. All in service to the state. And it made me remember something. And I wonder how many of you are going to remember this. You know, the government is going to be patting itself on the back, sense of achievement for overcoming this historic event. They're going to be patting themselves on the back. They faced this thing head on. Global warming brought us this massive hurricane, but the government mobilized, and they put their journalists and everybody into gear, and who knows how many things that might have happened didn't. I remember one year, it might have been the 90s, Cuba was hit with a series of hurricanes. It was almost unfair. And as one was approaching, Fidel Castro actually went out to Pinar del Rio, which is in the Vuelta Abajo. It's in a valley on the western side of Cuba. And he actually went out there and he stood up and he raised his hands, stopping the hurricane, and shouted at it, "Not here, no more." And the hurricane missed Cuba. It went around Cuba. And the Cuban media praised Fidel for the courage to go out there and tell this hurricane what for. And the only reason I know about this is it was reported in the United States media. Not with a bunch of people laughing, but it was with incredulity. Wow, Fidel went out there. I'm not saying our media fell for it. It's just it wasn't ridiculed. It wasn't laughed at. It wasn't held up, not like they'll hold Matt Drudge up for ridicule or me. No. Fidel Castro, he was treated with great respect. He had the courage to go out there and at least try to stop this hurricane from devastating his little communist paradise. It's stunning stuff. And, of course, Fidel's media is part of the state. Now, okay, I'm going to take a break here. I know it's Open Line Friday. I got to get the call soon, but I've got a series of sound bites you have to hear because it backs all this up, and then we'll get started on the phone. So hang in there. We'll be back here before you know it. Okay, very quickly, here's how it happens. This is what I said yesterday on my program, and I want you to note how seriously I was describing this hurricane, which I did, and how seriously I also treated it. This has been a serious storm from the get-go, and I have perfected being able to analyze how hurricanes are reported. I've become an expert in spotting the politics in hurricane tracking and hurricane forecasting. And by that I mean people that work at the National Hurricane Center is part of the National Weather Service, which is part of the Commerce Department, which is part of the Obama administration, which by definition has been tainted, just like the DOJ has. And we know, in fact, Obama is actually telling people that global warming, that climate change is having a very profound impact in the war in Syria. It's patently absurd. As an aside, you realize how dangerous that is, too? That there's a civil war in Syria, and it's bad, and people are being killed, and our president is chalking it up to climate change. And how is that going to dictate the way we fight it? I mean, we can't stop climate change other than sign pieces of paper to the UN. So what is this? That is dangerously insincere. And he knows better. So I maintain the Obama knows that it isn't climate change that's responsible for the war in Syria. But he can advance the size of government, the intrusion of government in people's lives, and he can exempt himself, by the way, by blaming it on something that nobody has any control over. Here's Conan O'Brien. This is, you've heard what I've said about all this. Conan O'Brien had to go tell jokes about this yesterday on his show, and this is how this sounded.
Rush Limbaugh, whose show is headquartered in Florida, said the government is hyping Hurricane Matthew to sell climate change. Yeah. Limbaugh was unable to finish his comments because he was suddenly under 200 feet of seawater. Just bubbling and burbling. Yeah. That's all you can hear is just bubbling.
Lousy comedy, because good comedy must have an element of truth in it. That's what makes it funny. There's no truth in this. I'm not even in Florida. There was no 200 feet of water. We didn't get any damage to speak of at all where I live. I mean, the usual downed tree limbs and leaves all over the place. But we escaped it. But you see, the point is, said the government's hyping Hurricane Matthew to sell climate change. It's inarguable. But to him, that's just the most outrageous thing that anybody would ever say. Why? Because Conan, for lack of ability to critically think, has just bought hook, line, and sinker into whatever the state says. And the state is infallible. Here is next Obama.
Many of you will remember Hurricane Sandy, where initially people thought this doesn't look as bad as we thought, and then suddenly you get massive storm surge and a lot of people were severely affected. And so I just want to emphasize to everybody that this is still a really dangerous hurricane, that the potential for storm surge, flooding, loss of life, and severe property damage continues to exist, and people continue to need to follow the instructions of their local officials over the course of the next 24, 48, 72 hours.
Okay, that's fine as far as it goes, but then after he finishes, that was from this morning, when he finishes and they start talking about it, and you have your obligatory guests referring to global warming as in the discussion, as confirming what Obama said. Oh, yes, these storms can be suckers. They can fool you. They can do all kinds of. Obama's right about this. With climate change, you never know what these. It's just as subtle as that. Now, last night, time zone's confused. It must have been, it's not going to have been at midnight here. It had to be 2 a.m. Eastern time. I think CNN announced that there was little to no property damage to report to date in Florida. Fine, that's great, but it doesn't dovetail with the warnings everybody got. This morning in Miami National Hurricane Center, the director, Rick Knabb, held a press conference. It's a portion of what he said.
If you are in an area that has been told to evacuate and your authorities are telling you that you still have time to evacuate, I want to personally plead with you to get out right now. Don't wait one more moment. Save yourself. Save your family, save your friends. Don't be part of the history of this hurricane that might include a long list of fatalities in the U.S. due to water. You want to be on the positive side of history.
Okay, look, I don't need to add to this. I mean, you see the what do you want to call it? The scarf, save yourself. Hang on, the pièce de résistance is coming shortly. Save yourself, save your family. Here now is the sheriff of Martin County, Florida, William D. Snyder.
People do not seem to get it and are not leaving. And I have already checked. I'm not saying this to be theatrical. You all know me. I don't lean towards bravado, but I talked to my detective captain earlier today, and I asked him, do you have body bags? Are you prepared for mass casualties? Because if people do not leave, and we get 140-mile-an-hour wind gusts in some of our mobile home places, we are going to have fatalities.
Yeah, I think it's long gone out of Martin County. That's just north of Palm Beach County. But body bags. I mean, imagine you're watching this. You know, your average American, Tom, Dick, or Harry, Mary, Joan, Sally, you're watching this. Man, did you hear that? Mabel, they're talking body bags. Oh, my God. You're going to die. Positive side of history. But this, folks, from yesterday on the Fox News Channel with our old buddy, Shep Smith. This is the pièce de résistance.
Despite the warnings, lots of people here in the United States have said they're not going anywhere. We will not cover your funerals, and we will not feel sorry for you. They're stocking up supplies, boarding up their homes, and hoping, which is moronic. Matthew is a rare Category 4 hurricane. This moves 20 miles to the west, and you and everyone you know are dead. All of you. Because you can't survive it. It's not possible unless you're very, very lucky. And your kids die too.
Okay, Fox News Channel, Shep Smith, telling you that if you die, it's because of your stupidity, and they're not going to cover your funeral at Fox. They have to find somebody else to cry for you. Because you can't survive this. If it moves 20 miles to the west and you and everybody you know are dead, and your kids die too. Now, what are people supposed to do with this? Fear-mongering in the name of liberalism is a virtue. Fear-mongering in promotion of the state is a virtue. And I will take an obscene profit break here, be back and wrap up the hour in here just a second. Now, for those of you who are still on the fence on this global warming attachment to hurricanes, I want to take you to PBS in the News Hour, formerly with Jim Lara last night, hosted by Judy Woodward. She's got this Goddard Institute of Space Studies director, Gavin Schmidt, on about Hurricane Matthew. She said, Matthew, Mr. Schmidt, at a time when I think many of us in the U.S. are focused on this big hurricane headed for the mainland, this has to give scientists the concern. They're going to get even bigger. How should Americans and others think about climate change in the face of something? You can't escape it, is my point. And nobody doubts it. Here is the Goddard Space Studies Director's answer.
So one of the key things is sea level rise. Sea level rise is one of those aspects of change that multiply the damages that are caused by just the natural variation of climate and the natural variation of hurricanes and storms that we see. Plus, we have some expectation that hurricanes themselves and storms themselves will become more intense, perhaps less frequent, but more intense. And then that obviously adds to the damages as well.
Well, it's an occasion to think about all of this and to think about the interconnection.
From a couple of scientists in a book called Marine Geology, it is instructive to note that over the past 50 years, actually past 150 years, ever-increasing fossil fuel utilization and atmospheric CO2 buildup, the frequency of most intense category hurricanes in the northeastern Gulf of Mexico has been lower than it was in the 5,000 previous years. On the cutting edge of societal evolution, especially for those of you with the courage to hear the truth. Rush Limbaugh behind the golden EIB microphone on Friday.
Live from the left coast at our satellite studios in Los Angeles, it's Open Line Friday.
Yes, sir, Bob, and that means that if we take calls, we will, I promise you. Now, you can call about whatever you want. I'm looking at the call roster here, and it's good. It's good. I'm looking forward to it. I just have a couple more things here on this, and then we're going to move on. The telephone number, if you want to be on the program, is 800-282-2882. The email address, lrushbo@eibnet.com. There have not been, in 11 years, there has not been a single major hurricane strike land in the United States. And you point that out, and they will run stories on how you are a denier. And because you are upsetting the narrative that the state wants you to hear. But isn't it settled science? You don't even need a consensus here. Isn't it settled science that there have been 0 major hurricanes striking the U.S. in the last 11 years? Why aren't the people denying this called deniers? Why are people like me pointing it out to you held up for ridicule and challenge when it is inarguably true? And the reason is it doesn't advance the agenda. When they've been out there for decades trying to tell you that global warming is causing all of this, and then there are 11 years that go by and there's not a single damn major hurricane, it just blows their whole narrative to smithereens. You're not supposed to do it. You're not supposed to challenge the state. And somebody comes along like I do and do it, and they just get ticked as hell. Now, just these two things. I had to read this very quickly before the previous hour ended. These next two things come from our own meteorologist, Dr. Roy Spencer, University of Alabama at Huntsville, who is a noted expert on climate change on the science side of it, not the political side, on the science side of it. Has his own website, weather abnormalities, normalcies, hurricanes, what have you. There are several published papers by noted academics who do not follow the line of the state that have analyzed lake bottom sediments in Florida. And here's a quote. It is instructive to note, and I will translate this for you, no sweat it. It is instructive to note that over the past century and a half, that's 150 years, of ever-increasing fossil fuel usage and atmospheric CO2 buildup, which is what they claim is causing everything. Climate change, global warming, all of it, because your SUV added CO2 and all of that. After 150 years of ever-increasing fossil fuel utilization, the industrialized development of the country, the frequency of the most intense category of hurricanes in the northeastern Gulf of Mexico has been lower than it was over the past 5,000 years. So these people are saying that increased CO2 has reduced the intensity of hurricanes. You remember some of the excuses 3-4 years ago when we hadn't had a major hurricane? You remember some of the excuses that the learned meteorologists told us? Sahara Desert sandstorms. Yes, my friends, Sahara Desert sandstorms. So much sand was whipped up in the atmosphere that it totally screwed up the formation of hurricanes. And it led to wind shear, which has caused the tops of these hurricanes to be whipped right off them, and it retarded the formation of hurricanes. Sandstorms, Sahara Desert. Hey, Mabel, do you hear the sandstorm? Well, we need more sand in, don't we, Mabel? Now, the space sciences guy, the Goddard Space Center guy, was on with Judy Woodruff at PBS. Judy, it's not just climate change, it's not just global warming. Of course, problems here involve the ever-rising sea levels. Coupled to sea level rise with the storm surge, and you have potentially catastrophic. Right. Sea level change, you know what it is? Sea level change has averaged 1 inch per decade. So the 10 to 15 foot storm surge is still 10 to 15 feet. 1 inch per decade. Negligible. You couldn't even measure it. They're lying to you, folks. Some of them don't know they are. This is the crazy thing. The ones that buy into it, some people, Rush, you say so many different things, and like people have college degrees. That's right. I think in college people, they're not teaching critical thinking. College has become a propaganda exercise, mind control exercise, whatever. I mean, it's an indoctrination. It's not an education. And I didn't get one. I didn't go to. I quit college after a semester because they flunked me in speech, of all things. And then they made me take ballroom dance taught by a drill sergeant in wax. I said, this is not for me. As a result, I've learned to think and doubt and try to prove to myself what these people are just robots. They just come along and whatever the state says, they echo it. And furthermore, don't doubt it. They're afraid to, particularly if they rely on grant money for their lifestyle. If your entire lifestyle is built on government funding, well, you damn well better believe that you're going to have to echo whatever the state wants you to say. And that's exactly what we have going on. Now, just one more soundbite, move forward to number 9. Because I'm just going to obliterate all this, people thinking I'm making it all up and exaggerating. I'm not. I just listen to what people say, and I attach meaning to it and share it with you. This is back on September 6th in Tampa, Florida, the one and only Hillary Rodham Clinton.
Another threat to our country is climate change. Last week's hurricane was another reminder of the devastation that extreme weather can cause, and I send my thoughts and prayers to everyone affected by Hermine. But this is not the last one that's going to hit Florida, given what's happening in the climate. If it affects people who lose their homes or their businesses that took a lifetime to build.
You're a bigger threat to that than...
When it comes to protecting our country against natural disasters and the threat of climate change, once again, Donald Trump is totally unfit and unqualified to be our president.
You see, Hillary Clinton is the greatest, clearest threat to your small business of anybody out there next to Obama. And yet she's out there telling... Do you remember Hurricane Hermine? There was a hurricane out there. Do you remember all the devastation from it? No, it was not a major hurricane. Hurricane Hermine. Do you remember it? This is back in September she's talking about this. And she's predicting, and now she can say, I told you, global warming. Look at Hurricane Matthew. I predicted it, global warming. And this is how it happens. People eat it up and suck it up and don't challenge it, don't question it. And the only problem with it is it can't be proved. Because global warming itself is, well, look, I've said enough on that. I want to move on to the things. The presidential campaign, we're going to get to your phone calls and so forth. The AP has a story here. Trump did a town hall. A big debate coming up Sunday night. And a lot of people have a lot invested in the debate. The Trump supporters hope that Trump is different. They wish he would go prepare. They wish he would rehearse. Trump's saying, screw it. I'm not going to rehearse. I'm not going to have somebody pretend to be Hillary. I'm just going to do what I do. He's not listening to advice. He never has, really. He's confident in who he is and how he does things. And he's got these advisors that advise, but it doesn't mean he's going to listen to them. And the word I get is that he doesn't listen to most of it anyway, which frustrates the advisors. Which I kind of like. I mean, if you really know your stuff, why would you I don't need an advisor to tell me what I think about things. Can you imagine, say I run for president one day and I get this cadre of advisors. You're going to say, why do you need them? You want to be telling the advisors what to think. Exactly right. If you're really into this stuff, why do you need advisors? Now, maybe advisors' strategy and all that, but not to tell you what you think. And Trump doesn't need them and doesn't use them. So He's claiming he's not going to do anything special. In fact, he's saying he's not even going to bring up Bill Clinton and the endless parade of bimbos. He's made a point, which I find strange because Trump's out there ripping to shreds everybody that's telegraphing our plans, say, in Syria, telegraphing our plans against ISIS. He says, why would you telegraph your military op? Well, why would he tell Hillary what he's not going to talk about? Unless, of course, he is. But the headline of the story, the AP, Trump gets softballs at town hall ahead of Clinton showdown. And it's by our old favorites of the AP, Jonathan Lemire and Julie Pace. It had the trappings of a town hall debate. There was a moderator. The audience members had questions. There was a 2-minute countdown clock for answers. And Donald Trump carried a microphone while patrolling a small stage. But the similarities between what Trump faced Thursday night in New Hampshire in a warm-up town hall and what he'll see Sunday night in St. Louis end there. Which is true. Because on Sunday night, the moderator will be a Hillary supporter. The moderator is going to be from the state-controlled media. Trump is going to be, it's going to be 2 against 1 like it was last time. It's going to be 2 against 1 this time. At his little town hall in New Hampshire, there wasn't a Hillary supporter as the moderator. So he's going to be facing that. And in fact, there's 2 moderators on Sunday. It's Martha Raddatz and Anderson Cooper. So you're going to have 2 Hillary supporters from state-run media, which Trump didn't face in his in town hall. And all the questions were not aimed at discrediting Trump in New Hampshire like they will be on Sunday night. And the questions that Trump did in New Hampshire were not scripted by the Hillary campaign or some other Democrat operative like her town halls are. The AP says that Trump didn't actually interact with the audience, instead only conversing with a friendly moderator who read the questions, nearly all softballs submitted from the invitation-only crowd. Okay, fine. That's in the AP. Can I share with you the details of another story about another candidate who's also preparing? Hillary Clinton the last 2 days have been doing her own public appearances and her own town hall type things. She was given, this week, she was given all the questions she would be asked while being interviewed by Steve Harvey, the comedian, who's also one of these great defenders of the state. Steve Harvey, comedian, was given all the questions. By the way, there's no dispute. I'm not telling you something you don't want known. It was no dispute that Steve Harvey was given all, that Hillary was given all the questions by Steve Harvey that he was going to ask. This is the guy that does Family Feud TV show. That's the hardball moderator Hillary's rehearsing with. Then there was a little girl who asked Hillary a question in a forum concerning body shaming. What was she, 15? there was a little 15-year-old girl who asked Hillary a question concerning body shame, and Trump, something along the lines of, what can young girls all over the country do when Mr. Trump is making us ashamed to be little girls by making fun of our bodies? And Hillary, that is such a serious and great question. And it's time this kind of bias and sexism come to a screeching. This 15-year-old is an actress, and her father is a lifelong Democrat political operative and office holder who coached her. But nobody was told that. People watching this thought that it was a random selected 15-year-old girl in the audience who came up with that question on her own. The reason I think Trump ought to unload, I don't think there has ever been a more coddled and comforted candidate in the history of time, short of Obama, than Hillary Clinton. It's what the first 30 minutes of the first debate, Trump owned them. She was reduced to her robotic, politically tainted, oriented answers to everything. She clearly had deer in the headlight eyes, and why he changed pace and dropped the, I don't know, dropped the energy. But she's not used. None of them are. Hillary's not used to it. Obama's not. These people couldn't stand one day of the kind of media treatment Republicans get. It's softballs here and there because they're all on the same team and they all have the same objective. In a companion story from what is this? This is academia.org. Now, of course, Institution of Higher Learning, the Academy, Academe. The headline, Trump baffles academics. Like that would be hard. The best and the brightest in academe, this is by Malcolm Klein, just to give you a byline here. The best and the brightest in academe have been trying to unravel the Trump phenomenon for about as long as this election season has run. Some guy at Wright State University devotes about 3 blogs a week to the subject on the Academe blog maintained by the American Association of University Professors. Here's a clue. You can only convince people that we have a good economy if they actually have a job. A pair of scholars of fairly diverse backgrounds has figured this out. They are a minority in academe. In other words, you can only convince people that we have a good economy if they have jobs. We have written about the phenomenon today in which more budding businesses fail than succeed. It turns out that we aren't the only ones who notice. Nowadays, more businesses die every year than are started, says Angela Codevilla, writing in the Claremont Review of Books. In this century, all net additions in employment have come from the country's 1,500 largest corporations. Now, while all of this reality is going on, academics, the pointy-headed, super-educated, can't figure Trump out. They don't know why people like him. They can't figure out what his appeal is. He's an embarrassment. He's a clod. The guy's a bull in a china shop. He's coarse. He's bombastic. He's rude. He's crude. Why would anybody like... They can't... So they are delving deep within each other's blogs to try to explain why Trump is succeeding. And they don't understand why Trump is selling this trade that's making him popular and all these other on the economy, because to them, they all have jobs. They're working in universities, and no matter what, they have jobs, and they're the ones that can't relate to people who don't have jobs. They're the ones that can't relate to people who do not think the economy is just chugging right along, because in their world, which is the only world they ever experience, they never venture outside it, everything's fine. The alumni continue to donate. The football team continues to sell out. The money is flush at the university. What do you mean we've got a bad economy? And they claim to be the smartest in the room. Let's take a break. We'll get back, and your calls are next. Okay, finally, we get to the phones. We're going to start with Jimmy in York, Pennsylvania. I'm glad you waited, Jimmy. Great to have you, sir. Hi.
Hey, thank you, Rush, for taking my call. Briefly, I was wondering if you think a storm might have an impact on the election. What I mean is the storm really bad? If it could take weeks to get power restored down there. You know, the cities will come back up before the counties and the suburbs, and that's just sort of how the power companies operate. So a few weeks from now, you know, the cities could be restored, and, you know, roads cleaned and polling booths up and running. And out in the counties and the countryside, the polling places could be dark, you know, and all it takes is a few precincts, maybe a couple of counties in a state to, you know, switch the election.
Well, now, wait a minute. I think whatever damage is done by Hurricane Matthew here on October the 7th will be fixed by a month from now. But, you know, you raise an interesting question, and that is, will the hurricane have any effect on the election? I'm trying to find it here in the stack. Mrs. Clinton has already called for advanced voter registration opportunities, advanced, early voting. For people that haven't been able to register, we need to give them more time. For people that haven't early vote, give them more time because of the hurricane. So, and she was running ads on the Weather Channel yesterday. She finally pulled that buy off the air because it was not. She was getting big blowback from it. But in terms of there being no power at the polling, that can't imagine that. Certainly not in relation to this hurricane. And I don't think I've heard any of them say that climate change might affect electricity supplies at voting places that are traditionally Republican. Wouldn't put it past them at some point, but I haven't heard anything like that. No, this is just, that won't have an impact at all, other than Mrs. Clinton attempting now to expand deadlines for people to register or to early vote on the premise that the hurricane has been such a disruption that they will not even be thinking about it now, so we need to accommodate this. And that would be the only impact on this that I can think. I may be missing something, but I don't think so. Yeah, grab soundbites 10 and 11. This will illustrate what I just said in reply to our previous caller. This is Hillary's campaign manager, Robbie Mook, yesterday in a conference call with state-controlled media.
Our hope would be that a little bit more time will be given for people who were expecting to be able to get registered before the election, and we certainly expect that the governor and local officials will make that possible.
Of course they do. The governor's Rick Scott. He's a Republican. Of course we fully expect that the governor and local officials will get a little bit more time out there for people who were expecting to be able to get registered to maybe not be able to get because of the devastating effects of climate change. And here's Clinton operative George Stephanopoulos, who also is a state-controlled media personality at ABC News. He's asking Rick Scott, the governor of Florida. See, here's what happens. So Mook, Hillary campaign manager, goes out, we really think the governor of Florida will expand voter registration so that people have been impacted by this latest example of global warming will have an extended chance. So, right on cue, George Stephanopoulos, Clinton operative at ABC, gets the governor on Good Morning America and asks him this.
The state of South Carolina has extended voting registration because so many lives have been disrupted. Why won't you do that?
Look, we've had plenty of time to register. Look, this is politics. I mean, right now I'm focused on getting this. I'm getting this done. I'm focused on saving everybody's life. The biggest issue for me is I want everybody to survive this.
So, but no, Governor. No. Saving lives now. Second place to making sure people get registered to vote. Saving lives. Come on, Governor. We're not falling for that. Governor of South Carolina, Nikki Haley, she's fallen in line. Oh, yeah, she's extended voter registration. Why won't you do that? Stephanopoulos asks. And the governor says, look, people had plenty of time to register. The election, everybody's known when it is. I'm out saving lives, which is what he thought he was supposed to say. But no. Saving lives subordinated to registering people to vote, in parentheses, for Hillary. Grab soundbite 23, just in. Vice President Bite Me is in Bristol, Pennsylvania during a campaign event for Hillary.
I know some of you and some of the people you're trying to convince aren't crazy about Hillary. I know that. Okay? I think she's gotten an unfair deal. But the truth of the matter is, there's a lot of people. Folks, don't wake up on November 9th and find out we lost Pennsylvania by 2,000 votes.
I know some of you and the people you're trying to talk to aren't crazy about Hillary. I know that. We all know that. I think she's gotten an unfair deal, but the truth is, so they acknowledge her negatives and admit that it's giving them a problem. Now, look, I don't want to alarm anybody. I just got a note here, and it's from Maggie Haberman at the New York Times. Excuse me. Trump campaign, make of this what you will. Trump campaign is canceling hundreds of thousands of dollars in advertising in Florida, North Carolina, Ohio, and possibly other states, according to two buying sources. That would be advertising agencies or others who broker advertising buys. Now, the first thing we have to ask is it true? That's the first thing I ask. It's in the New York Times. Now, to most people, that automatically makes it true. Not me, because the New York Times is, again, state-controlled media. So, is it true? Then if it is true, what does it mean that Trump is canceling? Because he needs two or three of those. He needs, if it's Ohio and North Carolina, Florida, he needs two of those three to win. Can't win it without winning two of those three in the Electoral College. And if he's canceling advertising buys 1 month out, what does it mean? Does it mean that they hope the third-party people are going to continue to buy and therefore they can pull back? Does it mean they think it's over and they're saving money? They're not going to waste money. A lot of this is his money, some donors. Or does it mean they think it's over and they've won it? It could be any of those three possibilities. But I will guarantee you the way it's going to be played in the drive-by media that Trump is admitting defeat. They won't say it exactly that way. They'll present it as I did and create the conclusion that they want you to draw, that Trump is already conceding. That's what this means. So be prepared for that if you run into this or if you hear this mentioned later on in the day and through the weekend. Here is Bob in Las Vegas. We head back to the phones. Great to have you, Bob. Hi.
How you doing, Rush? Nice to talk to you today.
Thank you very much, sir.
I have a question. I'm not sure, but when Haiti, I've looked on the news today, and there was like 600 people died from this hurricane. But what happened to the $2 billion that went to them in the earthquake? They could have built themselves houses that were earthquake-proof, hurricane-proof, and everything else. What happened to that money?
Oh, why do I? You know the answer to that. You're just calling because you want me to say it rather than you saying it yourself.
Well, was it the foundation, Hillary Clinton's foundation?
See, there's the answer. He didn't want to say it himself. He wanted me to put the onus on me because I can take the arrows, I can take the slings. The Clintons did indeed, folks, siphon much money that was sent down to Haiti in relief, and they did it through their foundation. They went down there. And the Clinton Foundation really scored. I'm looking for the story in the stack because I just happen to have it here. It's part of my show, but I'm looking for it now, and I forget the exact how it worked, the machination of them. They didn't take nearly all the money that was sent down there, but they found a way to get themselves in the money river. They got themselves in the flow, the money stream, and they were able to collect some of it on the basis that they were going to further distribute it. But they didn't have to say when they were going to distribute it. They were able to get some of that money for their foundation. Do you remember, by the way, thanks for the call, Bob, I don't think people remember this. The Washington Examiner has the story. They ran it 2 days ago. And I had forgotten it, too, but I remembered it when this story. Clinton Foundation officials quietly refiled 3 years of tax-related forms this week after the New York Attorney General acknowledged that the charity had failed to disclose all of its donors in accordance with state law. And even beyond that, the Clinton Foundation has had to refile their taxes. And I remember when the first report came, the reaction everybody had, well, how come they get to do it again instead of being penalized for it? You file wrong, and you make a mistake, and they're going to come at you and demand penalties. And what, the Clintons made a mistake 3 times and they were allowed to refile? And then we realized what the IRS did to Tea Party fundraising groups, denying them status. So again, it's different treatment for different people. And there's another story here in the stack that the Clintons are trying to make a big deal of how great their charity is and how many. In fact, what was it? It was Kaine. You know, I shouldn't say this. I really shouldn't say this. When I was looking at Kaine the other night, Tim Kaine at the debate, I could have sworn I was looking at a Dr. Seuss character. I couldn't. It's green. I couldn't remember what the character. Maybe it was the Grinch. But the Grinch wore a hat, didn't he? Yeah, well, this character did have a Santa hat on. It might have been the Grinch, but it was the raised eyebrows that did it, not the green face. Don't misunderstand. But it was the eyes and the eyebrows. And I said, geez, it reminds me of this Seuss character, but I couldn't remember which one. Anyway, he was going on and on and on about all the... What did they say? We've cured 10,000 cases of AIDS, or we've donated 1 million cases, whatever it is. Do you know what the actual percentage of money the Clinton Foundation has raised that they donate so far to charities? Like 5%. 5% of what they have collected, they have donated. And, of course, nobody reports that either. That's just the Clintons get the benefit of the doubt that they're nothing but a pass-through. In other words, 95% of what you donate goes to charities. And that's, do you know, 7%? Ready for this? 7% of the Clinton Foundation, the money raised, goes for travel and entertainment expenses for people that work at the foundation, including a lot of Clinton family people. So 7% travel, entertainment, whatever else, housing for employees of the foundation, 5% donated to charity, which is fine. Look, they're not breaking any law doing it. My only point is they get the benefit of the doubt for being deeply compassionate and caring greatly about people when there are lots of other charities that pass 80, 90, 95, in some cases 99%. One of the charities we support here is the Marine Corps Law Enforcement Foundation, 99% pass through. You give them $1, 99 cents goes to the beneficiary. Nobody makes a dime personally at MCLEF and a couple of others. But the Clinton Foundation's 5% gets passed through. Anyway, brief timeout is open line. Friday continues. Much more on the other side. Don't go away. I am reminded, ladies and gentlemen, that the T&E, not TNA, the T&E expansion, the Clinton Foundation, that's travel and entertainment, does not include the number of trips President Clinton took on the Pedophile Express, the Boeing 727 owned by noted sexual predator Jeffrey Epstein. Clinton flew all over the world with the guy. That did not come out of the Clinton Foundation. That came out of Epstein, whatever. Clinton just was, he was a hanger-on, well, more than a hanger-on, but he was flying on the plane with Epstein. Now, a little bit more on the Trump ad buy. This whole thing started with Maggie Haberman at the New York Times. It's been picked up by a guy named Sam Stein at the Huffing and Puffington Post. And this guy, Sam Stein, has tweeted that, and he's confirmed that Trump is canceling ad buys in Florida and North Carolina and Ohio worth a total of $1.5 million. Says it could be higher, but that the campaign may reinvest. And then the next tweet was a clarification. Trump is not leaving the states entirely. He's canceling ad buys in certain smaller markets within the states. Well, that's a big difference. But how many people are going to hear the retweet? You know, the New York Times is a Bible, and they have reported that Trump's pulling out of Florida, North Carolina, and Ohio. That's all anybody's going to hear, the retweet. Well, no. He's He's not buying in some of the smaller markets. He hasn't pulled out. So we'll see. I bet you'll find big stories sometime this afternoon and tonight about Trump pulling out of those 3 states. And hopefully somebody on the cable channel you're watching will, no, he's not pulling out. He's canceling the small market buys. In fact, he might be increasing his spending. It has now been referred to. Now, as to our last caller and the foundation, the Clinton Foundation in Haiti, it's a Breitbart story. I'm just going to read from it. The last time that tragedy struck the tiny Caribbean country of Haiti, Bill and then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, according to scores of angry Haitians, used their billion-dollar charity and leveraged their global connections to enrich themselves and their moneyed cronies. While then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton's State Department was funneling billions of dollars in relief money to rebuild Haiti, the Clinton Foundation was leveraging its influence to guide high-dollar contracts to longtime Clinton cronies. So what was happening? The State Department was authorizing money to go to Haiti. The Clintons were getting, because she's Secretary of State, she's directing that money go to contractors and builders who had donated to the Clinton Foundation. So Hillary's in charge of the money that goes to Haiti. And what the beef is that so much of the money went to the contractors and the builders, not the residents. And angry Haitians saw this happening, and they expressed their anger about it. By leveraging the money that the State Department via Hillary donated or directed to go to Haiti hurricane relief, then the money redirected to the Clinton cronies who did the work. This is how Clinton cronies reaped millions of dollars of profits off of the catastrophe that was the hurricane in Haiti. And one of the people involved that did well was Hillary's brother, guy by the name of Tony Rodham. And he was quoted in the story and said, hey, don't come to me about this. I deal through the Clinton Foundation. He was brought into court about this. This actually ended up going to court because of the money that was sent to Haiti. Way too much of it didn't stay there. It got funneled to Clinton donors and others who had given money to the Clinton Foundation. Now, that in turn leads to more money coming back to the Clintons. Kind of like a money laundering scheme. State Department donates money to Haiti. Clinton runs the State Department. She directs the money go to Clinton donors. Clinton donors, wow, this is so cool. So they take the money, they do their whatever they're rebuilding, and they make sure to continue their donations to the foundation. And over here, there might be some work done to rebuild destroyed Haitian property and so forth. That's how the game is played, and that's what connections are for. That's cronyism, if you want to know what it is. And it's why, if you're one of these contractors, you couldn't care about liberalism, conservatism, ideas, the Constitution. You see money. You see an opportunity via cronyism and connections to be rolling in dough. And now Hillary's running for president. Imagine the amount of money she's going to be able to direct as president for whatever reason. Come up with a couple of executive orders that send money to this place or that place. There's always disasters happening. And it wouldn't even have to be disasters. But that's basically what the story was that our caller wanted the answer to. Now we have another profit break that we have to take. Ours are legit, folks. Just so you know, our profits are legit. Okay, more detail on the Trump advertising buys, and now it's starting to make sense. It's another tweet. Trump has trimmed $200,000 in ad buys in basically rural areas. Colorado, Florida, Iowa, and Maine. Rural ad buys. He already owns those areas. That's one of Trump's major support areas is rural America. Rural Pennsylvania. He owns outside the big cities in Pennsylvania. So he's canceling ad buys in those areas because he doesn't need to spend money there. And that's apparently what's going on. The New York Times wants you to think that Trump may be throwing in the towel. As a greetings to you, music lovers, thrill seekers, conversationalists all across the fruited plain. You are tuned to the most listened to radio talk show in America, the most talked about host of the most listened to show in America, and the fastest 3 hours in media.
Live from the left coast at our satellite studios in Los Angeles, it's Open Line Friday.
Yes, sirree. Here we are in Los Angeles for our final remaining big broadcast hour. Everything looks good for being back to the EIB Southern Command on Monday. But again, it doesn't matter. Because as long as I'm here, it doesn't matter where here is. And Open Line Friday means whatever you want to talk about is fine. Does not have to be like that. We don't do topics. Said somebody called Rush, what I have a little off the topic of global warming. We don't do topics. We do the news, whatever's hot, whatever's happening, whatever I care about. But on Friday, I don't have to care about it. You can call, like if you want to speculate why the NFL, I mean, it's serious. Why they're losing audience. It's big time. They're facing advertiser refunds. It's major. And a lot of people think that they're not honestly assessing what's wrong. You know what the most popular reason given is? Overexposure. The Thursday night games. Yep, that's it, folks. Tell me. You're not watching football on Sunday and Monday night because they play Thursday night too, right? Now, there are other factors. I think it's a cumulative coalition of things just happened at one time, and with the crossing of the T being Colin Kaepernick and the boys deciding to take the occasion of the NFL stage to let everybody know they're not happy with the country in which the game is being played. That's got to be having some impact on people, but the NFL doesn't want to admit that. Anyway, if you want to talk about that or whatever it is, feel free. The phone number is 800-282-2882, and if you want to send an email, do that. I check it. It's lrushmo@eibnet.us. Okay, if you just join us, there's a brewing little controversy over Donald Trump and his commercial ad buys. The New York Times, Maggie Haberman, who used to be at the Politico. But these places, it's all state-run media. They're just incestuous. They go from one place, they marry each other, they have affairs with each other, they go from elective office to working for a candidate back to the news, and so forth. So she was at the Politico. She's now at the New York Times. She tweeted out that Trump is canceling ad buys in North Carolina, Ohio, and Florida. Well, if that were true, that would not be good because of conventional wisdom, which I'll get to in just a second. The way the establishment is going to think of that, oh, my God, if Trump's canceling ad buys, he's conceding it's over, and they'll start celebrating and doing handstands at the drive-bys. And then another tweet. Can we find out that the original tweet that got this started was Maggie Haberman tweeted and Sam Stein at the Huffington Puffington Post. And that place is home to a special brand of stupid. You have to be a special kind of stupid to be working at the Huffington Puffington Post, which we discussed earlier with the way they're reporting on me and this climate change business. But anyway, this guy Sam Stein reports that, well, wait a minute now. We find out that Trump is canceling about $1.5 million in these states in small markets. And then it got updated again to where Trump is canceling $200,000, not $1.5 million, in rural areas in Maine, Iowa, and North Carolina, not Florida and Ohio. But the original tweet was, and from the New York Times, which is the Bible, Trump pulling out of North Carolina, Ohio, and Florida. Turns out he's canceling $200,000, as best we can tell now, $200,000 in rural markets. Places where spots cost, what, Craig, $8? Because the population is small. He owns the rural areas in these states. He doesn't need to reinforce it with ad buys because there's other places where the money could be used. So, it happened about an hour ago. They got it out there that Trump may already be admitting defeat because, you see, The establishment of both parties has this, it's part of the political structure we talked about yesterday, the way they play the game in their business. And remember, Trump is not in their business. He doesn't prepare his tax returns to be publicly released like they do. He hasn't lived his life for public consumption the way they do. And so he's a genuine outsider, but they try to plug him into their formulas and analyze and cover him the way they would cover any elected official. And they're doing that with this ad buy business. Now, to the establishment of both parties, there is in their world, an undeniable truth, and it is this. Whoever has more ad buys is winning. It's dogma to them. It's inarguable. If Hillary is spending more money on advertising, she's winning. If Trump cancels advertising, he's losing. That's the rule of thumb. That's dogma in traditional politics. Now, the main reason that Hillary is assumed to be a shoo-in by the establishment of both parties is, well, there are many reasons for it, but one of the things they focus on is her larger ad buys and the fact that she has more cash on hand. And that tells them that she has much more support, because the more money you have, the more donors are giving you money, and therefore that equals, well, you know the whole phrase, money is the mother's milk of politics. That was actually created by a famous, now late, but campaign expert here in California named Jesse Unruh. Willie Brown pronounces his name Unruh, but it was Jesse Unruh. And he came up with that phrase, money is the mother's milk of politics. And that's how the establishment of both parties assess these things. Now, Donald Trump, if you ask me, has already blown that model out of the water. In the primaries, he didn't spend any money. And another reason why the establishment's fit to be tied. He didn't spend any money, meaning people's skids didn't get greased. He didn't have to spend any money. He used free media. Remember all the complaints? Remember all the warnings Trump got? You can't do free media in the general. You may be able to get away with it in the primaries, but you can't just rely on free media in the general. But he is. And I know some of you say, yeah, but Rush is down in the polls. Well, we think. I don't think you can assess anything with Trump the way you would assess, say, a Romney or Rubio, any Republican politician in elective office or formerly who is running. You just can't plug Trump into these strategies and formulas you have to judge success. Here's another one. Mike Pence today is at a rally in Pennsylvania, and it has got 10 times the people that Hillary Clinton and Tim Kaine are drawing. Trump's rallies still overflow every arena. And what do they tell us? That's meaningless. That's all anecdotal. You can't judge that. You don't know how those people are going to vote. You don't know how many of them are registered to vote. That's not science, like climate change is. So they discard it. And then they'll point you, and I myself have even been guilty of this, they'll point you to Romney. And they'll talk about his large crowds. The thing with Romney, his large crowds occurred in the last 5 days of his campaign. I remember he was in Colorado. And even I was, whoa, look at this. And the Romney supporters, wow, something's happening here. Something, but it wasn't. He still ended up losing by 6 or 8 points, whatever it was. But Trump, it's not the same thing as 5 or 8,000 or 20, whatever is showing up for Romney. Because Trump's have been consistent wherever he goes. Everybody shows up, knows what he's going to say. You don't show up because of the unexpected. You don't show up because of the drama. You're showing up because you want to be part of it. But they discount. Whereas Hillary cannot draw flies to a book signing. She can't. I mean, Hillary's crowds are not even numbering in the thousands. I remember Hillary went into Kansas City. They got this giant convention center in Kansas City. And they had to cordon off 95% of it to make it look full for TV cameras at her rally. It was a public employee union or teachers or something. I forget what, preachers. Might have been Baptist conventions. They had to for her speech, nobody showed up. And they tell us, doesn't mean anything. I mean, that doesn't. Look at the money she's generating and all that. again, folks, it takes a really supreme effort, but as we discussed earlier, the media has become defenders and protectors of the state. It's stunning to me. The more I think about it, it used to be they were the ones that questioned authority and held them to accountability and were suspicious, and still are if they're Republicans. But now they're just echoes. I mean, there's no pretense. And if you don't fall into full acquiescence with the state, then they come after you. If for example, you don't buy into what they're telling you about climate change making this hurricane what it is, they're going to come after you, ridicule you, joke about you, make you do everything they can to destroy your character and your credibility. And they do, so they are agents of the state. And as Trump isn't, and Trump supporters aren't, and they're plugging Trump into all this, and you've just got to resist. What did I do? Just to use myself as when I first reported Maggie Haberman's tweet, what the first thing I said, if this is true, because I'm telling you, my initial reaction to anything in the New York Times about this campaign, doubt. First thing, confirm it. Like I have been doing. Imagine if I hadn't dug deep. What if I just believed her first tweet that Trump's pulled out of North Carolina, Ohio, and Florida? Well, that's what most people are going to do. Except maybe we can change that here. But it's the way it works. You have to, as depressing as it looks, and that's what they want to do, is dispirit you in depression, make you think that Trump has no chance, that you have no chance, it's all over but the shadow. You have to resist this. Because they are trying to win this thing in the court of public opinion long before votes are even cast. I've got a couple more sound bites here on voter registration. Let's start at number 12 here. This is Stephanopoulos, former Clinton campaign war room leader with James Carville. He's now a state-controlled journalist at Good Morning America and ABC from the Clinton war room. He's on Good Morning America today, and he's speaking with the chief White House correspondent, Jonathan Karl, another so-called journalist who is the defender and protector of the state, the government. And they're talking about the impact of Hurricane Matthew on the presidential election.
There is some concern in the Clinton camp who were quite bullish about early voting in the Carolinas and Florida that this might have an impact.
Absolutely, George. And we have seen in the past how close races can be in Florida. Every single vote counts. So the Clinton team has asked for that extension on voter registration. They still think there are tens of thousands more who would register between now and October 11th. Some may be prevented from doing so as a result of this storm. And they also believe this could have an effect on early voting.
And by the way, you note the report, only Hillary is concerned about this. Yes, their story is, there's some concern in the Clinton camp who were quite bullish about early voting in the Carolinas and Florida. This might have an impact. They went to the governor, Rick Scott, in case you missed this. They were berating Rick Scott. Hillary says, I'm sure, her campaign guy, Mook, I'm sure the governor of Florida will extend early voting and registration. So Stephanopoulos calls the governor, gets him on TV. So are you going to extend early voting? Well, no, we're not. The people have had plenty of time. I'm trying to save lives down here. They got a hurricane roaring through the state. So they try to impugn Scott for not falling into line. And so now they're doubling down on this, that it won't be fair. This hurricane, oh my God, it's not fair. So they're conflicted. They love the hurricane because it's global warming. They get to push that. But now they think it might impact their voter registration or early voting. So they have to try to fix that. But it's interesting to me that they don't even consider it might be important to Trump. It's all about what Hillary wants. It's all about defending and protecting the state. Not only that, if you listen to the drive-bys, it doesn't matter anyway, because Trump has already been humiliated and embarrassed. It's over. And you're going to see it again in the debate Sunday night. We have a montage of state-controlled media people. We've got here Megyn Kelly, we got Wolf Blitzer, Charlie Rose. It's a whole bunch of them out there talking about how, and this is pre-debate spin, whatever happens, even if he wins the debate Sunday night, even if it's a knockdown, drag out in the first round, it won't matter.
Donald Trump is getting serious about preparing for his upcoming presidential debate with Hillary Clinton. But are his plans too little, too late?
Is it too late? Is it too late if he goes in and has a stellar debate? Would that be enough at this point?
What does Donald Trump have to do in this debate, or is it too late?
Donald Trump merely performing better than he performed disastrously in the first debate is not a win.
It's getting very, very late in the game for him to turn it around.
He's so far behind now in so many places where he needs to be ahead, including nationally, that the bar is different for him in terms of what would constitute a win.
Yeah, this doesn't matter. Even if he wins, it's too late. It doesn't matter. Where do they get this? How come they all end up saying the same thing? I'm telling you, they're getting talking points from the Hillary campaign. Mook will call them up or send them a fax, whatever. Look, we think Trump's done, can't win, too little, too late. They run with it. How else do they all end up saying the same thing? Here's Dr. Krauthammer last night on Fox, special report with Brett Baer.
The most important thing here for Trump is the morning after. He might have lost the debate. It was pretty close. It was not the rout that people say it was. But he really threw it away the morning after when he went down the rabbit holes on the Miss Universe. I think he can hold his own, ignore the bait. He should just dismiss all the quotations that he hears the way that Pence did. Deny it ever happened and then ignore the fact checkers the next day. And then to pivot and to talk about her, focus in on her weaknesses on Benghazi, which he never mentioned, emails, other stuff, and then just have somebody remove the cell phone overnight, at least for a week. I think he'll be all right.
So Dr. Krauthammer thinks he clearly can still win this thing. It's not over. But he's one of the few. I've got to take a break. We're up against it on time. Sit tight. Back before you know it. Okay, here you go. This from Breitbart. Trump new voter registration soars. 2 million door knocks in a week and a half. It's a story about all of the brand new voter registration that the Trump campaign and the Republicans, I guess, working with him, are creating. In Florida, net 261,000 new registrations. Iowa, net plus 38,000 new. Nevada, net 12,000 new. North Carolina, net 173,000 new voter registration Republican. Pennsylvania, net plus 223. You're not seeing this anywhere. In fact, all you're hearing is, oh, man, Hillary Clinton, we need the governor of Florida to extend our early voting and our voter registration. Yes, this is exactly why. It is not dire straits for Donald Trump out there, but boy, you wouldn't know it if all you have access to is standard, ordinary, everyday media. American Spectator, great story here. Maybe in the next half hour I'll get into how poll bias obscures Trump's likely election. Just goes totally against the grain of what is being reported. But I want to grab the phones now because it's Open Line Friday. We try to take as many as we can. And we have a 10-year-old from Baton Rouge. This is Amelia. It's great to have you with us. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
I'm so happy you called. What's happening? What's up?
I wanted to tell you how much I liked your Rush Revere books.
Oh, that's sweet of you. You made my day. That's so great. Which one do you like the best? Have you read them all?
Yes. And
Good.
my brother read them all, too.
No kidding. How old's your brother?
He is 7.
7? Wow.
Yes.
Cool. And you're 13. You're 10.
Yes.
And who's your favorite character in these? I bet I can guess. I bet it's Liberty. I bet you like Liberty the horse.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, you know what? When we finish here, don't hang up, because the nice man who answered your call and screened you and put you up wants to get your address, and I want to send you a full-fledged Liberty stuffed doll.
Okay.
Yeah, and a whole bunch of other stuff from the whole Revere operation. We'll send you a whole bunch of stuff. Since you've got all the books, I don't need to send you those. We can send the audio.
No, I don't have the second one and the fourth one.
Oh, well, pardon me. I assumed you did since you'd read them all. The second one and the...
I got the other two. I got the ones I don't have from the library.
Oh, okay. Gosh, they let it into the library? That's progress. So you don't have the second one and the fourth one?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I'll fix that. You know, we'll just send you a set. It'd be easier that we'll just send you all of them, and that way you'll have a couple copies in case your brother spills something on one of them, you'll have some pristine copies just for you. Thank you. Now, hold on to me if you don't go away. Half my brain tied behind my back just because I want to make it fair for the left and the leftists that call, if they ever do. All while meeting and surpassing all audience expectations every day. Okay, here's Chris in Sanger, California. I'm glad you waited, sir. Great to have you on the program.
Hi, Rush.
Oh, it's a ma'am. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to call you a guy.
It's okay. I get it all the time. I am just so angry.
You get it all the time? Oh, because of the confusion in the name. I say, okay. I'm thinking about the reasons why that might be, and I was curious. But we won't focus on that. What was the reason for your call?
Well, I am just so angry because I contacted the Rush Revere group to see if they would donate some books to me so I could donate them to my daughter's school. And she's 10 years old. She goes to John Wash in Sanger Unified. And they graciously sent me the first 3 in the series. I donated them to the school, and that was a year ago. And I just found out on Tuesday night at our PTA meeting that the books could not be entered into the library because the librarian stated that they were politically leaning and historically incorrect.
They are specifically not political.
Exactly.
These are there. You know, here's another thing. I want to clarify something. These are not children's books. These are history books for young adults and young people. When people think children's book, they think pictures and coloring books and that. It's not that. These are full-fledged books, hardcover. And they are for young people, and they teach the truth of the American family. There's no politics in this. There's no conservatism or liberal. You know what this is? This is just your librarian with her own politics. She's injecting and imposing her own political view. And because my name is on the book, she's assuming that it's rotten and bad and wrong, and she's not letting it in the school. That's outrageous. It's simply outrageous.
Sanger
Unified, you say?
Yes.
Where in the where is Sanger? Where in the state is Sanger?
Just
California.
east of Fresno.
Oh, okay, east of Fresno, Shenandoah Valley. Well, I that burns me up because we go to great lengths to make sure these books are not political. Especially not in relationship to modern day politics and what might be going on. We're just trying to teach the truth of the founding of this country because it isn't taught enough anymore. And we're doing it, I mean, for crying out, talking horse is political.
Exactly.
We write these books in such a way that the people that read them are actually taken to these historical events via time travel. And they actually get to see the events take place, such as the debates at the Constitutional Hall and the pilgrims arriving and the trip across the Atlantic Ocean and all that. That burns me up.
Oh, it makes me so angry.
Well,
so angry.
Did you say anything to her about it? The librarian?
Oh, yes. I said, right in front of everybody there, I said, it is not politically leaning. I said, I've read every single one of his books. They have nothing to do with politics, and they're historically correct. I said, Rush did all of the research.
We have a whole staff of people that puts these books together. We've got the people that do the illustrations. We've got fact checkers and double check when we make historical assertions of fact in these books. That's the first and foremost objective, is that what we write about is true. Not correct. We're not propagandizing in these books. There's no need to. The truth of the American founding is a great, beautiful story. There's no reason to lie about it. They're the ones that do that.
Exactly.
Well, is it no change? I mean, they're still not going to let the book stay in the library?
No, my husband picked them up yesterday, and we are going to donate them to another school, and hopefully they will put them in their library.
I suspect that you'll have some takers now after today. So. How many did we send you?
You sent me the first 3.
Just one copy of the first 3?
Yes.
Okay.
No, you sent me 3 copies of the first 3, and I donated them to Terry's house and another school in Fresno Unified.
Okay, because I was going to say, we usually donate a package when these come up. Well, look, I want to put you on hold, if you will. If you would give Mr. Snerdley, nice man to screen your call, if you would give him some contact information so we can send you some more to try to be donated elsewhere, since Sanger won't take them, we'll dwarf whatever influence Sanger has by donating them all over the place, if you want to try that.
Absolutely.
All right, so hang on. You hang on just a sec, Chris, and we'll be back as soon as we get your contact information. We're not going to be able to get to this next week until next week, so be patient, but we'll make it all happen. And thank you. Thank you for trying to make this happen. This is you're warming my heart, and I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. I'm just glad my cell phone held out to get through this call.
You did great.
Thank you.
You bet. And we'll hope to talk to you again soon. We got to take a brief time out, an obscene profit break, and we will be right back. Yeah, let's just do it now. Let's just do it. Grab audio soundbite number 15. Bob Schieffer from the Jurassic Park of the drive-by media. So he recently retired. They brought him back for the campaign. He's a journalist emeritus. And he was on CBS this morning with Charlie Rose, and they were talking about the second presidential debate on Sunday. And Charlie Rose said, let's look at the dynamics, because it's a different style of setting here. But they're going to be sitting, I think, in this debate. What's a round table, kind of a forum or a whatever they call it, round table type. They're not standing up there at podiums, I don't believe. So here's what Schieffer said about it.
Yes, it is. And I'm not sure who that favors. Climbing up and down off those high stools that they're going to be sitting on presents certain challenges, I suppose. I've never liked this format, to be quite honest about it. Remember Al Gore getting up in George Bush's face, and it just goes off in all directions. So heaven knows what's going to happen this time around.
Who is he referring to here? Getting on and off a stool? You know he's not worried about Trump. Getting off and down, climbing up and down off those high stools, I don't like this. He's obviously worried about the effect of this going to have on Hillary. And I was just sent a tweet. I have no idea if this is true. It looks like a real tweet. And I'm prone to believe this because it's insane out. This from some Black Lives Matter member. I'm not going to embarrass her by mentioning her name, but it's in a thread about Hurricane Matthew and how racist the hurricane is. And I'm not making this up. Hurricane's racist because it only killed black people in Haiti. And here's the Black Lives Matter tweet is the death toll in Haiti from Hurricane Matthew is 339. That's what environmental racism looks like. Now, that is entirely believable that somebody thinks that way at Black Lives Matter. Whether this is a real tweet or not, I don't know. But this is this is environmental racism. So the hurricane is a product of the environment. This is, like I said at the top, they love Mother Nature normally, except Mother Nature is now a victim of us. Because we cause hurricanes, global warming. So Mother Nature is a victim, and because we are racist, we have now turned a hurricane racist. And that's what this dimwit believes. This is how they talk to each other. Death toll in Haiti from Hurricane Matthew, 339 is what environmental racism looks like. And there's a bunch of people who are making fun of it, too, so that's why I think it's real. Here's Cindy in Burlington, North Carolina. Great to have you with us. How are you doing?
I'm quite fine. How are you today?
Very well, thank you.
I appreciate you taking my call, and I'm going to talk fast. I'm a native Floridian.
Are you?
Over 100 years ago, my grandmother was born there.
Wow.
And I resent the fact that on the Weather Channel this morning, the man calling himself the President of the United States...
Ooh, that's vicious.
...made the statement that Florida wasn't hit as hard as it was expected. It got Cat 4. There is a death, at least one. That's important to me. This is my country. I pay taxes here. Part of my taxes go to his paycheck. How dare he solicitate to the Americans to contact the Red Cross and donate for Haiti, who the last hurricane, their government, along with Hillary Clinton's foundation, misappropriated funds.
Wait a minute. Are you saying that happened this morning, Obama, that had the Weather Channel?
On the Weather Channel. Check the news run.
I don't doubt you.
I sat on the phone for an hour and a half because it's that important to me. I have a sister in Central Florida. My parents built a house in 1950 that they lived in and still owned up until last year when my father passed.
Okay, wait a minute. We're running out of time here. Are you telling me that Obama was soliciting donations for Haiti?
Contact the Red Cross about sending money to help in Haiti.
He did it today?
Look at the newsreels.
Okay, the newsreels. That's where we have to find it. The newsreels. All right. Well, I knew that he was warning people to not get lazy because the thing could strengthen later or maybe hit land. I did not know he'd been soliciting donations for Haiti. Well, I can understand why that would infuriate you. I really do. I'm out of time. I got to go, folks. Back here in just a second to wrap it up. All right, we checked the newsreels, and it happened. She was right. It's all over Twitter. Obama urges Americans to donate to the Red Cross to help Haiti. It's also being noted that the Red Cross raised $500 million for Haiti and only built 6 houses after the earthquake there in 2010. $500 million. Have a great weekend, folks. We will be back on Monday.